question is regarding TPP. Now that there is a stated plan to pull out of TPP by the incoming or president-elect, what is your opinion on the relevance of TPP and Indonesia's plan into TPP? Part A. Part B, ASEAN. Now, your primary concern is investments into Indonesia. Seeing as what is happening with the ASEAN region and the potentials, particularly in terms of employment, personnel, and a whole bunch of other industries or areas, the potential, again, of non-tariff barriers coming in. How do you see this panning out for investment into Indonesia? We know Singapore is the biggest investor, but then let's be honest, most of it is Indonesian money coming back. But that's changed thanks to amnesty and so on. How do you see this panning out in the near future?
Thank you, Mr. Menon. So, indeed, TPP, will be one trade agreement which President Trump, with great delight, will be killing off in spectacular fashion, right? So he will generate headlines, by spectacularly pulling out of TPP, probably within his first 30 days in office. I think realizing that the Obama administration recently shelved efforts to seek congressional approval to try to get it passed during the lame duck session between now and the swearing in of President-elect Donald Trump. What I would say, okay, first, this is going to be a bit complicated to answer. I'll do my best. For third world countries, for emerging markets like Indonesia, it still makes a lot of sense to pursue trade agreements, right? And actually, what we have to start explaining to people is trade agreements these days is no longer so much about exporting and importing goods, right? They are, but to expand on my earlier comments, that more and more of global trade is actually in services, right? And trade agreements are more and more about people movement, right? Even things like visa procedures or work permits. So emerging markets or emerging countries like Indonesia, through trade agreements, will try to get market access for our workers to be able to go there, right? Or for our people to be able to sell services to customers, say, in the European Union or in Australia. It'll be more about standards, right? Why? For example, like this. If we can harmonize standards, then we can sell more to each other more efficiently, right? So, say, for example, if the European Union and Indonesia both have the exact same standard for electrical plugs, right? Then it's just easier. Like, we don't have to create adapters or what have you. It's also about since I mentioned trade and services, it's about standards and certifications for the professions, right? So, for example, like this, right now, we have a very limited permission for foreign law firm, for foreign doctors, for foreign engineers, for foreign bankers to work here, right? I think that's silly. Why is London a global financial center? Because there's a lot of foreigners, right? Why is Hong Kong or Singapore or New York a lot of our financial centers? Because there's a lot of foreigners, international bankers. You want to be an international financial center, you have to have international workers.
That's right.
Right? So I think for third world countries, it still makes a lot of sense to open up to negotiate trade agreements for mutual market access. For rich countries, I still believe it makes sense for them to open themselves up to third world countries, right? But at the policymaker level, I think they need to pay more attention to the people, their people.
Their own people.
Their own people, yes, I do believe that. Again, affordable childcare, affordable healthcare, worker retraining, right? Worker training. Gotta make it happen, right? Because otherwise, you'll have more and more popular uprising, more and more revolt, and sadly, over the generations, continuing deterioration in your human capital, right? And I believe people will revolt and revolt and revolt again and again until they get leaders who truly love them, who truly are willing to put in the hard work to take care of the people. Our plan, so again, as I hinted, still makes sense for us to continue opening our economy, including to international expertise, to international workers who bring networks, who bring knowledge, can teach us, can coach us, and also to push for market access to rich countries where we can sell not only our goods, but more importantly, our services. Again, you wouldn't think about this as an important part of a trade agreement, but to me, it would be very important, would be tourism. Right? Tourism is a 21st century industry, more and more. Again, merchandise trade is shrinking, but tourism is expanding like crazy. I think the millennial generation, the young people, they care less and less about physical possessions.
Yeah.
They're happy. They don't need to own a car. They're happy to call an Uber.
Yeah.
Call a Gojek, or don't need to own.
Yeah.
Even some innovators like put these sharing economy for Hermes handbag and expensive handbags. I don't need to own my Hermes handbag. When I want one, I just rent it. For a few hours and give it back. But what people are getting more and more crazy about is experience. Experience, adventure, memories, moments that they can post to Facebook, to Snapchat, and the like. And trade agreements have to reflect that. So visa-free policy to encourage tourists to come to us, right? Market access for our workers so that our workers can work in resorts, hotels overseas, get trained, come back to Indonesia, work in our hotels and resorts to build our tourism industry. That's what trade, to me, is about in the 21st century. ASEAN, non-tariff barriers, investment. I have to say, one thing that I've been harping on about for the last 2 or 3 years is our over-dependence on the US dollar, right? Which then makes us over-dependent on exports to the US or investment from the US. And I think one of the most fundamental changes, which all of us, everybody, still has not fully comprehend, is the internationalization of the Chinese currency, the renminbi, right? So I can tell you, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, Bank Indonesia currency reserves will no longer be 90% US dollar or 80% US dollar. Maybe there'll be more yen, there'll be more euro, but definitely there'll be a much bigger portion of Chinese renminbi. And we have to create alternative markets, right? I know it sounds strange. Everybody's right now worried about slowdown in China economy, and I'm advocating that we integrate more with China. But I think the lesser of two evils, right? If we're over-dependent on the US dollar and over-dependent on the US economy, frankly, America is very far away.
Right.
And we'll be at the mercy of developments very far away, whereas China is already integrated economically with us through supply chains, production chains.
Right.
And now we have to integrate our monetary policy, our currency regime with China as well, right? It's more likely that China will be synchronized in our economic cycles with us. And like this, in Bali, hotels, restaurants, souvenir shops, they're happy to take payment in not only in dollars,
But in other currencies.
they're even happy to take Singapore dollars.
Yes.
They're even happy to take Australian dollars, right? That makes Singaporean tourists and Australian tourists very happy, right? Oh, great.
Yeah.
And I can just give you my Singapore dollars, I can just give you my Australian dollars. Well, one small example is if we all were willing to accept Chinese renminbi, right? It would really make Chinese tourists feel, wow, this is really cool. I can go to Bali, I can spend, I can go shopping, and I can just spend my renminbi, right? So it's an example of how we have to diversify our exports destinations, you know, a bit away from the U.S. I mean, I'm not suggesting by any stretch that we
Right, stop.
ditch the U.S., right? But again, this is just common sense. We need to, you know, orient a bit more strongly to China, to Australia. I think there's still great opportunity, you know, for example, Middle East, right? But Middle East too needs to probably diversify away from the dollar. It's going to cause a lot of problems for them too. You know, their overdependence on the US dollar, which is linked to their overdependence on oil, but that's a longer story.
Okay. We'd like to go on all day, and Pat Tom has
Sorry.
been very generous with his time. But I've just received many texts from everyone. We need to stop it here for the time being. Sorry, but I think we can hopefully ask the questions to the other speakers. Pat Tom has to go, and we have to get the program going. So will you please join me in thanking Pat Tom for a very insightful session. Thank you very much. And I think what we've discussed today has very wide implications for the forum, for the Indonesia Economic Forum, and for our discussions later in the day. So thank you very much, Pak, and please join me in thanking Pat Tom again. And
Thank you, sure.